Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about two things that are absolute game changers in sewing. This is the stuff that takes a project from looking kind of homemade to, handmade professional. We're talking about fabric grain and marking methods. So, have you ever had this happen? You spend hours, maybe even days on a project. You finish it, you try it on, and something's just off. It hangs weirdly, or a pant leg starts twisting around your ankle. It's so frustrating, right? Well, the solution isn't some super complicated sewing technique. It's actually hidden in plain sight right inside the fabric itself. Think of it like a secret architecture. And once you learn how to read that blueprint, you're in charge.
All right, so let's dive into this. We're going to learn the secret language of fabric, and that all starts with understanding grain lines. I like to think of grain as the fabric's internal roadmap. If you follow it, you're golden.
Okay, check this out. This diagram perfectly illustrates that roadmap. Every single piece of woven fabric has these directions built right in. You've got the selvage on the sides. Those are the finished edges that won't fray. Running right alongside it, you have the lengthwise grain. Then, going across from edge to edge is the crosswise grain. And that perfect diagonal? That's the bias.
So let's focus on the most important landmark on that map, the selvage. Think of it as your North Star. It's that tightly woven, factory-finished edge. It's super stable, it doesn't unravel, and it's the reference point for literally everything else. Okay, so why does this all matter? Because each of these grains behaves in a completely different way. The lengthwise grain is the strongest and most stable. It has almost no stretch. The crosswise grain has a little more give. But the bias? Oh, the bias is where the magic happens. It has the most stretch, and that's what gives you that gorgeous, soft, flowing drape. Getting this is everything when it comes to fit. All right, so we understand the fabric's internal map. Now what? How do we actually use it? Well, this is where your pattern pieces come in. It's all about using your pattern like a compass on that fabric map.
If you look at any decent pattern piece, you'll see a long line with arrows on the end. That is the grain line. And let me tell you, it is not just for decoration. It is probably the single most important instruction on that whole piece of paper. It is your compass needle, telling you exactly which way your pattern needs to face on the fabric. And this right here is the aha moment. Look at this. It's the same pattern piece, just placed 3 different ways. When you line that grain line arrow up with the lengthwise grain, you get structure. But turn it 45 degrees to match the bias, and suddenly you get that beautiful drape. That one choice completely dictates the entire behavior of the garment. Okay, so your pattern is perfectly aligned on the grain. You're ready to cut. But wait, what about all those other little details on the pattern? The darts, the notches, the little dots. How in the world do you get that blueprint from the paper onto your cloth?
Well, let's look at 3 classic methods for doing just that. Each one is a fantastic tool to have in your toolbox, and each one really shines in different situations.
First up, the tracing wheel and paper. This one's super popular because it's fast. You basically make a little sandwich, fabric on the bottom, that carbon-like paper in the middle, and your pattern on top. Then you just roll that little wheel over the lines you need to transfer. Now, it's fast, for sure, but there are some trade-offs. You gotta be careful, because those little spiky wheels can totally shred a delicate pattern tissue. And it's probably not your best bet for sheer or very light fabrics, since you might be able to see the marks from the right side. Next method, good old tailor's chalk. It doesn't get much more direct than this. You're just drawing the lines right onto your fabric. It's simple and fast, but there are a couple of kinds. Regular chalk can sometimes rub off before you're even ready to sew, which is super annoying. Wax-based chalk is more durable, but it can be a real pain to remove from some fabrics. So the absolute #1 rule here is always, always test it on a scrap of your fabric first. And finally, we have the most traditional method, thread tracing. This is where you actually use a needle and thread to make temporary stitches, or basting, to mark all your important lines and points. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a lot more work. And yeah, it's more time-consuming. But trust me, it is indispensable. It's the absolute best choice for delicate fabrics like chiffon or slippery silks or even dark fabrics where chalk won't show up. It leaves no permanent marks, and this is huge. The marks are visible on both sides of the fabric. Sometimes it's the only way to get a precise, professional result. So let's bring this all home. Why did we just spend all this time talking about invisible lines and chalk marks?
Because this is the secret weapon to achieving a perfect fit and taking control of your fabric.
This quote really says it all. A garment made with off-grain fabric will not hang correctly. It's that simple. If you ignore the grain, the final piece just won't work. It will twist and pull against the body instead of moving with it. Ultimately, this isn't just about following rules. It's about being the boss of your fabric. This knowledge empowers you to tell the material exactly what you want it to do. It ensures that the finished piece looks just as amazing as it did in your imagination.
So now you have the foundation. You know the secret language of fabric. The only question left is, what will you create with it?